I wanted to listen to the people that were communicating, that were actually having success.
Welcome to the podcast about communication in business. I'm your host, George Torok. Did you know that I'm known as the speech coach for executives? That's because I help business leaders deliver the intended message for greater success. And we do that through one-on-one coaching or group training for the team. When you listen to this podcast, you will hear and learn communication insights from experts from around the world. My guest today is David Price. Here's 3 facts that I think you should know about him. 1, David spent nearly 20 years battling addiction and has now been clean and sober for 12 years. 2, he entered the insurance industry in 2018 and became one of the fastest to reach millionaire status. Gotta learn something there from this fella. And 3, in 2024, he walked away from a $2 million annual income to rebuild on his own terms after challenging how agents were being treated. David Price, welcome to Your Intended Message.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the intro, and I'm honored to be here. Appreciate that.
Delighted to be talking with you, David, and I'm curious, and our listeners want to know how communication has played an important role in your life, and I believe you've gone through various stages of communication, and I think that might start with the communication to self, especially coming off addiction. There must have been some let's say, interesting conversations you had with yourself along the way. And then from there, you transferred that into how you communicate with clients in the insurance industry, and then helped other people, other agents, build their own business. David, tell us about those first conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about battling addiction for 20 years. And, the only way somebody can stay in addiction for 20 years is at first they're communicating with themselves in the wrong way, where they're telling themselves everything's okay, you're in control, you can quit tomorrow if you want to, right? So that was the message that I was telling myself for a long, long time. And that was the message I was telling other people, and they were believing it. And they're, I had still had a circle of people, and, they just, drugs was just my thing. Like, some people went home after work and had a beer. I went home after work and did drugs, and everything else in my life looked normal on the outside. But drugs always win in a long enough timeline. And after 20 years, they finally beat me down to rock bottom and even lower than that. And, that was when I had to have like that talk with myself. It's like, all right, listen, Dave, like, what you're doing is not working. You don't have the solution, obviously, but the solution is like, get the heck out of here. And stop doing what you're doing. So I was living in New Jersey at the time, and I moved to Louisiana. Never been to Louisiana before that. My father was living in Louisiana. We didn't even really have a relationship. I hated my father, resented him for most of my life. Finally was able to forgive him right before he passed away, which was a big blessing. But yeah, went to Louisiana and just really was like searching for the answer on how to get clean, and then, like, more importantly, how to stay clean, because those are 2 very, very different things.
David, when you hit rock bottom, what conversation in your mind convinced you that you didn't have to stay there, that you could be different, especially if there's usually more than one voice going on in our head, and one of them says, well, who do you think you look at your past, why do you think you could be different? How did that voice that encouraged you, how did it stand out? What did you get from there differently?
The crazy thing is, even when I was using, I thought I was different, right? And even the people I used with, they're just like, oh, Dave's different, Dave's got his stuff together still, right? And obviously I didn't, but I was able to make everything look normal from the outside, and communicate as if everything was normal, and believe it myself, and have other people believe it too. But like you said, once you hit rock bottom, then it's just like, man, it's just a scramble. It's like, what the heck am I going to do? And for me, the first thing is like, just let's change locations, right? Let's change locations. Kind of slows down the network of who you talk to, slows down connections that you had. And it's something different, right? It's just like, all right, let's do something different, like drastically different. But then when it was time to, really get clean, just kind of fast forward, because we could talk about like that journey for a while, but I ended up in a 12-step meeting. I went there as a supporter because, again, I thought I had everything under control, and this was in Louisiana, which I took a taxi there. I was sleeping on my grandma's pull-out couch, owned 2 bags of clothes, very heavily in debt. So it definitely wasn't okay at all. But to me, it was like, let's help this girl. She needs help. And took a taxi there, and they said, like, I suggest you do 90 meetings in 90 days. I was like, yeah, let's do that. And it was me trying to tell her, like, hey, you should do these things, because it'll help you, but like, I'll do it with you. Right. And to me, it was like a God thing where God knew exactly what to do to get me to do what I needed to do to really open my eyes and have a change in my life. And that's when I just, not just started communicating myself, but like started listening to other people communicate. But like, I wanted to listen to the people that were communicating that were actually having success, that I wanted to have that kind of success. A lot of times people will listen to anyone that talks, but for me, it's super important. One, if I talk, to have the experience in it, because if I don't have the experience in it, you might listen to me the first time, but then you're going to stop listening to me. And if communication's, obviously a super important thing. So you want to make sure when you communicate, people like, they resonate with those words and want to listen to them, right? And you do that by telling truth. And then same thing is like when I'm listening for somebody, I'm listening for someone telling truth. Like, last time this person gave me advice, I followed this advice and my life got better. Whether that could be weight loss, working out, buying something, it was good advice, right? So I have a lot of people in my life that give good advice for different things, and I reach out to them. So, it was definitely the, one, learning to listen was a big thing for me. And then obviously after that, you're able to teach.
And David, there's two lessons that stood out for me there in what you said. One was that when you realize you need to change, you really need to change something significant, such as just move to another city. It could be just that, because it's different stimulus, different way you process the information. And two, when you're looking for answers, look to success. Look to successful people, not necessarily the people who are the loudest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, I was looking for massive results, right? To go from, sleeping in an apartment that was abandoned with no power and like all that stuff, not having a car anymore as an adult, which typically isn't okay unless you live in some big city. And so I needed, massive change. So I had to make, massive action, right? So I had to do a big thing. And there's a lot of times people, they want like massive success in their life at something, but they don't want to take the massive action that comes along with it. So it's something I've always understood. Doesn't mean I always put it into practice as well. But now, looking back and having success and be able to look at different things, and now it's a no-brainer, right? I have really, really big goals. And like, I know like these really big goals, they're not going to happen with me, not putting work in on weekends and early mornings and evenings, and like that all comes along with it. Now, if the goals aren't that big, then you don't have to take massive action. You could sit on the couch, whatever that you want, or whatever your comfort level is.
David, why did the insurance industry resonate with you? What was it that attracted you, and was it natural for you, or again, was it something that you saw opportunity and you exhibited massive action?
Yeah, so I was in my mid 30s, finally had some time clean, working myself back up the job market and working on creating an income and kind of catching up on a lot of lost time in my life, being in my mid 30s at this point. And I was sitting there talking with myself and I was like, when I was a teenager, I had these like massive dreams, right? Like I wanted to live, where I could drive exotic cars, go on nice vacations, have nice houses, all that stuff. I didn't want money to be a limiting factor in anything I wanted to do. So I'm like, all right, Well, I'm in my mid 30s, and there's nothing in my life that I've actually done that is really could have aligned with what my goals were, right? Most of the things I've done in my life was something I just settled on, something that I was just like, oh, cool, you're willing to hire me? Great. Like, and then you start rationalizing, right? Start telling yourself, oh, that's a good job. Oh, this is great. Oh, it has benefits. It has this, right? You start like building a case of why you should do this job that you're really settling on, and it's not like something that you really wanted to do and plan to do. And that's what I found I did my entire life, and I'm really good at selling myself on an idea of something's good. But now, having newfound clarity with myself, I was like, all right, I need to find something that'll let me do what I want, where I want, with whoever I want. Those are the three things. Like if it doesn't match, click those three check marks, then I shouldn't be doing it, right? Now, does this mean this thing will guarantee to give me freedom? No. But at least I'm on the path to freedom. At least I'm working towards the freedom I want. At least there's a chance, right? Because freedom's not just giving because you want it or because you jumped in the right business. So I was looking at different business opportunities. I was looking at franchises. I understood supply and demand, and I found a really good insurance opportunity where they had basically an abundance of leads, which were people looking to buy this insurance product, and not enough salespeople to handle that. And I'm like, wow, if you're a salesperson paid on commission, that's a really good place to be. And I looked at some more things about it. And I was like, man, this is great, And it wasn't like insurance was this sexy thing that I wanted to do, and I don't think anyone wants to like do insurance, but it was something that was going to give me the lifestyle that I wanted, right? And a lot of times, what we tend to do as human beings is we get so caught up on the widget versus like getting caught up on like the result that we can actually have. And luckily, right, because, insurance sounded real boring, like a guy in a suit with a briefcase, knocking on people's doors, right? Something I didn't want to do. And it's obviously not obviously, but it's not like that, right? We just work on our phone from home, like, we're in gym clothes basically, right? Or as comfortable as you want to be. And it just not every single thing that I wanted in life, it looked like this was the vehicle to give it to me. So I went all in on it.
What were the key elements of how you communicated with your clients? So these are people who are interested in insurance or maybe not sure about insurance, but how were you able to communicate with them and make successful sales and grow?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I teach my agents, or first it was me, I had to learn how to sell, right? And the thing I've learned was you want to do 5 presentations a day, right? And a presentation is basically, finding the person, right? And we're doing this through leads. So we have somebody hitting some kind of application process where they're interested in our product, and you want to find out why are you interested, right? So the first part is figure out like why did they give us their information, so you want to figure that out. In the beginning of this whole process, like I would say you're gathering intelligence, right? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out like, how can I help this person? Because that's your goal. At the end of the day, your goal is to help someone. I would say when you increase your ability to help people, your income will increase with it, right? So you want to get really, really good at helping people. And you do that by asking really, really good questions, listening, engaging, and then asking sub-questions based off of what they answered to try to figure that out. So, why are you interested? What caused you to fill this out or give us your information? Have you ever dealt with a funeral before? Do you have any kind of life insurance in place? Who would be your beneficiary if something happened to you? If you didn't wake up this morning, who would be the person that would be stuck dealing with this right now? Are they capable to deal with it? Do they have the finances and means to deal with this? Would this be a stress on their life? And you're trying to figure where they are with that. I don't have an insurance policy. No, my kids can't afford to bury me. I don't want to be cremated, right? Well, listen, if you don't want to be cremated and you have no insurance in place, that's usually what the people that get cremated, right? So again, you're having these conversations with them and really just finding out like what is it that they want and how you could help them with it. So it's very important. And then insurance is something you have to be really good at communicating about because it's not something they get to use, right? So if I'm selling cars, it's real simple. You drive into my dealership, you're like, man, I love that white BMW. I'm like, cool, take it for a ride. Oh, you still love it? Good. Here, let me get the paperwork, right? The BMW, you get to leave with it. You're super excited about that. No one's excited about buying insurance. So that's where you have to get really good at listening to people. And I would say once you learn how to sell insurance, you could sell anything to anyone, because you really learn to be a good communicator, which is, it's so important. It's so valuable. It's really, the art of communication is what has, helped me really create the life that I have and have all the freedom that I have right now.
And life insurance is probably the biggest intangible that anyone would ever purchase. I can't think of anything more intangible than that. And at the same time, they don't see the reward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a really personal reason why they want it, right? It's a very unselfish thing to get, because a selfish person will be like, listen, I'm not going to be here. Someone else can deal with it, right? Which obviously, like, if you're dealing with a funeral, it's probably one of the worst days of your life. Like, if you're the one dealing with that, like, it's not a great day. Like, there's nothing good about that. So to be having that worst day of your life, and then also sit in a funeral home, and this is what happened with me with my father. Like I mentioned earlier, he passed. I'm in the funeral home, and this was, this is when I first got my insurance license. I didn't have money. I was broke. Right? I was just getting started, and I was like, oh, I don't know how to pay for this. Like, what happens if I don't have any money? I'm in the funeral home, and they're like, well, you have no choice. You need to figure it out. Like, that's what they're telling, someone that just lost their father, hours ago, basically. So it's super important thing to have. And luckily, another thing is that's really good when you want to sell something, right, or start a business, is you want to be in the right market. So luckily, what we sell is final expense insurance, and that's marketed typically to people 65 or older. Well, 10,000 people are turning 65 every single day. So it is the largest market. The majority of those people don't have insurance. So luckily, you always have somebody to talk to if you plug into a really good lead program.
Most, if not all things we buy on emotion. What are the typical emotions that are behind people when they make the buying decision for life insurance?
Yeah, so you want to make an emotional sale versus a logical sale, because there's not a lot of logic to it, right? So it is emotional. So you want to, ask them, like, what would happen? Like I said earlier, like, what would have happened if you didn't wake up this morning? Who would be dealing with that right now? Like, what would that look like to them, right? You want to bring them to that place and make them understand, because the positive and negative thing is most people don't deal with a lot of funerals, right? They don't, you deal with a couple funerals in your life. So that's why in the beginning we're asking them, have you dealt with a funeral before? Because they're like, no, I never dealt with a funeral. Like, okay, like, they haven't felt the pain. They haven't went through the suffering. They have no idea what that is. And now it's like your job to really try to paint that picture for them and make them understand emotionally what that's like, because this is what's going to happen. And this happened actually with me. So when I lost my father, my parents been divorced since I could remember, but I leaned on my mom for emotional support. And I spoke with my mom about buying insurance before, and she wanted nothing to do with it. She's like, no, I'll be fine. I don't need it. I'll be fine. Well, when she's seen what I went through with my father, she called me up. She's like, listen, I need a policy and my husband needs a policy, because she's seen that. She's like, oh my God, I'm not doing that to my son. And I'm not letting my husband do that to me, basically, right? So you really want to paint that picture for them, and you want it to make it emotional, not make it emotional because you're trying to, like, get them to do what you want them to do. Like, my goal is always to, like, educate them so that they understand what it's going to be like. Some people don't realize, like, if you have no money, like, the funeral home's they're not going to be the nicest people to you. They're not going to be like, oh, no problem. Here, let me add you to the government funding situation plan. There's no such thing. They're going to be like, listen, you need to figure that, like, next to kin, like, you need to figure this out. Or like, we're going to throw him with everyone else. They get burned, and you get a box, and it may have some ashes in it. And that's still going to have a fee.
You went from selling insurance yourself to helping others build their insurance business. What change did you need to make in the way you communicated with those people? Because now you're not selling directly, you're helping these agents, these new business entrepreneurs sell. How do you communicate with them? What does that need?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I like to do is, when I'm in an Uber, at a restaurant, there's a lot of people that are working jobs that they're just not happy at. They're not making the kind of money they need to be making to live the life they want to live. I mean, they're barely getting by. They're missing their children's dance recitals. They're not present. Wives, husbands, or fathers. And insurance is something that if you take it seriously and you learn the skill, right? It's not a get rich quick. You're not going to instantly, money's going to start flying from the sky. But if you actually take the time, learn to communicate, right? Learn the skill and go through whatever that is. Sometimes it's a year. Sometimes it's 2 years, worst case scenario, but it's way shorter than a college degree. And you really learn that you can have all the freedom that you want, So for me, it's like I want people to understand that, because insurance has changed my life. I grew up on welfare, food stamps, living in homeless shelters, living in a 1-bedroom house with 3 people, living in a 2-bedroom trailer with 5 people, right? So I've lived in, broke, super broke. Like I remember I was a varsity wrestler all 4 years in high school. My wrestling coach had to buy me my varsity jacket because my mom couldn't afford to buy me a varsity jacket. Lucky I had people that cared about me and did nice things for me. So I went through all that. And I know that, if somebody's not happy with what they're doing, and I've seen it, so many people, so basically I share, what the opportunity is, and I teach them how to sell insurance. I teach them exactly what I know, plug them into our systems, our trainings. We have a virtual call center. And then from there, really they write their own ticket. I mean, I've had people, that were making $15 an hour, that make 6 figures, some multi 6 figures. And it's just, again, and it's not a get rich quick, but once you learn that skill and you really put the time and the effort in, you could, one, make a lot of money, or maybe not put as much effort in and just have a really, really, life where you're just, a lot of downtime, right? You choose, you make your hours. And, it's really trying to get people to understand that, because when I had that success story of somebody that, like, man, Dave, that sounds great. They get their license, they go through the work, they go through the uncomfortable stuff, and then they get to the other end, and then they call me up like, Dave, dude, thank you. That's super rewarding for me.
David, when you meet someone who comes to you and says, here, yes, I want to do this, help me do it, what are you looking for in them? What are the qualities that you're looking, because they're not doing this. They're not selling insurance. Maybe they're not selling, period. They're not even in sales, never thought about being in sales. So what qualities are you looking for in those people?
Yeah. So the crazy thing is, I've hired over 1,000 agents over the last 12 months, right? So I've hired so many people. I mean, in my career, I probably hired 5,000-6,000 insurance agents. So you have the laws of large numbers. You learn, the common denominators of success and the common denominators of failure. And what to look for, what not to look for, and all those things. And if I really look at all those people and the most successful people, majority of them had no sales experience and no insurance experience. And those are actually my favorite, because those are the ones that are coachable. Right. It's kind of like, dating a girl who just came out of a really abusive relationship. That's like when you hire an insurance agent that's like came from somewhere else. Like maybe things didn't go well for them. They have bad habits. They just been working on a bunch of different places. Someone lied to them. They had false expectations. That's why, over and over again, I said, listen, this isn't get rich quick, where the rest of the industry wants to make things sound way easier than it is. And again, that's when I said, like, when you communicate, you want to communicate truth, because the goal of communicating is get people to understand and listen to you. So that's why I'm very open about that. So for me, it's not a great salesperson. It's not even like that person that could talk to anyone, right? Everyone has that friend that could talk to anyone. I've had that friend too, and I thought I was going to help them be successful. But what I realized, it's the person that has heart. It's the person that no matter what, they keep moving forward. No matter what, they don't quit. No matter what, they stay coachable. And those are the people. Like, it doesn't matter where they're from. It doesn't matter what their background is. And I love that, because it's like the great equal opportunity. Like, if you have heart and you're willing to do it, like 100%, I believe you could win. If you're like, oh, well, I'm a great salesperson, but what's the minimum amount of work I could do to be successful? You don't have a chance.
Have heart and be willing to do the work. Wow, what a fabulous credo to go by. And it sounds so simple, and yet it's difficult to do. one to have heart, and tell me if I'm reading right here. By having heart, you mean that they actually care about themselves and others.
Well, yes, they care about themselves and others. But when I talk about heart, I talk about the Rocky movie, right? I talk about the underdog, right? I talk about the person that, you know, they weren't supposed to win at life, right? You know, the cards were stacked against them, but they keep fighting every single day. They want more. They don't care, you know, where they grew up. They don't care, you know, what their parents gave them or didn't give them. They don't care. It doesn't matter. It's that person that, you know, when things get tough, they keep going, versus that other person is like, oh, you know what, man, you know, it's kind of hard today. I'm just gonna quit today, right? So the person that you know, heart like lion heart, you know, that's the kind of heart we're looking for here.
Like the little engine that could.
Exactly, and that's good, because really, I feel like anyone could possess that, right? I mean, they don't have it naturally, but like you have a chance. You have a chance to say, you know what, like, I'm tired of quitting. I'm tired of not doing the things I said I'm going to do. And starting today, I'm not going to quit, and I'm going to stick with my commitments. I'm going to do the things I said I'm going to do. And that's the person that will win with me.
David, did you always have heart?
I did. I grew up a very, very tough childhood. I was very resentful about it for a long time. And now looking back, I'm like, that is what got me ready for what I do now. That was the prerequisite that I needed to be able to do the things I'm able to do now, as far as relate to people from all different walks of life. And, you know, just being an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is full of ups and downs, and you have to have a strong pain threshold. And lucky that was given to me at a young age.
Strong pain threshold. I can identify with that, because I have been a marathon runner, and in order to run a marathon,
you need heart.
You need pain threshold. You need heart. You need the ability to say, "Oh, I think I can. I think I can," even though I hurt everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, running. I mean, you know, I've never ran a marathon. I think maybe 10, 15 miles is probably the most I've ran. But yeah, I mean, there's so many times I'm running, I'm like, I just want to stop now. Like, you know, and you're communicating yourself the whole entirety. You're either communicating yourself, you want to stop, or like, I got this. Especially when I start rerunning after I haven't ran in a long time, it's like, oh, I hate this. But I know if I run consistently for 3-4 months, then I start actually enjoying it. But it's again, just doing it, even though you don't want to do it, over and over again, like that's what success is. And I think running is a great skill to help teach you what it takes.
And I continue to run. No marathons anymore. And the toughest part for me these days is just getting out the front door. As long as I can get out the door, I'm okay. But some days, if I sit inside too long, I convince myself not to go out.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's a great metaphor for life, right? I think with entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. You know, I hire over 100 agents every single month. Last month we had 160 producing agents, so 16% basically over the last year, right? Decided to show up, because that's the thing. They're self-employed, and when you're self-employed, you have an option to show up or not show up. And for some people, that's great. And for others, and majority of people, it's not so good, because when given the chance to go to work or not, they decide not.
How much does storytelling play when you are working with these agents? What are the stories that you tell that seem to connect with them?
Yeah, storytelling is super important to me, and that's something I've been told before that is one of my strong points, is that I'm able to, you know, give people stories, ways to relate, you know, and again, just going through all these different things in my life, and just, you know, when someone's complaining about something or they're not happy with something, I'm able to usually relate with them, or I'm almost ready to relate with them, but usually be able to give them like a way worse example of something that I had to go through or do, and you want people to, so, you know, like you mentioned, I'm one of the fastest millionaires in the industry, and when someone's dealing with that, right, that title, like, it's hard to relate, right? And then what people start doing is they disqualify themselves. Like, it's like, oh, well, he's the best of the best, right? Like, I can't beat him. And I tell people like, yeah, like, okay, cool. That's my results. But my first 6 months of the business, I got my license in May, but at the end of the year, my 1099 was $20,000. Right. And that was working 12 hours a day or more. That was working like 80 hours a week, probably. Right. So I remember literally saying to myself, like, geez, I would be making more money at McDonald's at time and a half for all these hours I'm putting in, selling insurance. But like, again, you have to look at like, this is my learning phase, right? Like, why should I be making money? I don't know what I'm doing. I just got started. But 6 months in, you forget that for a little bit and you start like, man, I need to quit. I need to find something else. Like, and you start telling yourself this story. And I realized like, the problem is my mind. I'm trying to find every single thing wrong right now. I'm building a case, right? I'm talking to myself. I'm building a case of why everything's wrong and why I need to do something else. And that was like October in the year, November-ish. And I was like, December, I made a choice. I was like, this is the deal. The problem is the story I'm telling myself, right? My mindset's messed up. So I'm going to get my mind right every single morning before I go to work. Over the next 2.5 years, I put $980,000 in my bank account, right? So I almost quit after the first 20 grand in 6 months, and lucky I didn't. And then my fourth full year, which would be the next block of time after that, put $1 million in my account in one single year. So it's definitely like I go through that whole phase with people, because there's people that had more success than me earlier on that are like second guessing things. On listen, like, based off what you're doing, you should be surpassing me in time. So you got to be a little bit more patient and understand that, this isn't get rich quick. It's get rich for sure. Right. Or no one wants to get rich slow. That's the problem.
And David, for people who'd like to learn more about you and see if there's opportunity for them with working with you, they can find you on your website. They can also follow you on Instagram, and you can find those links in the description below. As we prepare to wrap up, imagine you're sitting with a new recruit, a person who is thinking, okay, I'll give this a try. So far, I haven't had much success in my life. This failed, that failed. I don't know if this will work at all. If you could offer them 1, 2, or 3 pieces of advice to get this person moving, because we know momentum helps, what would you say to get them moving in the right direction and to keep the momentum going?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing, again, like to go into storytelling and help people relate, but I'm guessing that there's a good chance that person probably walks. And, if they think about back, they probably don't remember, but when they're learning to walk, what would happen if they just, walking is not for me, or, this is dangerous. I don't think I'm going to do this, and there's a reason why majority of people walk, right? Is because when we're that young, like, we don't quit, right? We don't care what other people think. We don't care what, we don't have all these emotions. Like, we're just like, oh, they're walking, we got to walk, and they fall all over the place and they keep trying. And that's why everyone walks. And I wonder, like, what would happen if, like, we lived in the world, where we had to start learning to walk at like 60 years old. How many people are like, I haven't walked this long. Who needs to walk, right? Like, we would sit there and tell ourselves, like, this isn't that important. This is dangerous for me. I like crawling. I've been crawling for the first 60 years of my life. So same thing. It's whatever you want to do. There's a way higher, like super much higher chance of you being successful if you don't quit. Right. And just like understand that. And sometimes days are going to suck. And sometimes it's not going to be easy. But like, if you just try a little bit more every single day, it's almost inevitable, and like it's almost impossible not to fail, or almost impossible to fail if you refuse to quit.
Powerful advice there. My guest today is David Price, reminding you that if you want massive success, you need massive action. If you like what you heard, tell your friends and post your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, because that helps more listeners find us. Come back every week for more practical insights to help you deliver your intended message. I'm your host, George Torok.